Well, if you ask me, nobody really cares about separatism all that much in Quebec these days, and the Liberals, they're a non-entity outside of the West Island of Montreal. But who pays attention to me? I just happen to be an Anglo that speaks enough French to get fed and get some wine when I'm in the province. What would I possibly know? One of the reasons I used to love talking to Eric Duhaime when we were at Sun News is because Eric actually gets Quebec. He's not one of these people that pontificates and never leaves his little enclave. He joins me now from Quebec City. And Eric, I want to talk to you about the niqab issue in a moment. But first, I want to talk about what all the English Canadian reporters were talking about as they followed Tom Mulcair. And that's that he said two things. One, he's no way in hell he'll support Stephen Harper in through a minority. He won't vote for a Harper minority throne speech. And then, oh, look, Denis Coderre agrees with me. 50% plus one means we can separate. Who's talking about this except English reporters and Coderre and Mulcair?
Well, first off, it's great to be back with you, Brian. Thank you for the invitation. You're absolutely right. The 50 plus one is not an issue at all right now in Quebec. Nobody's talking about a referendum. The Bloc is a distant fourth right now in the race. They would win 0 seats if there were elections today in Quebec. Mm-hmm. Here in Quebec City, they're at about between 5 and 10%, depending on which constituency you're going to. So it's not even a factor. So I don't know why they're focusing on that. I don't know why the English media is even paying attention to such an issue, because it's not even part of the debate at all. What people are talking about right now in Quebec, and it's been actually the start of the campaign, the real start over the last few days, is about the niqab. This is becoming, it really hijacked the campaign completely. When you read Le Devoir, that is not known to be a Stephen Harper newspaper, for those who don't know it, yep. It's a leftist paper who would make the Star, the Toronto Star look like left wing, the right wing. And this morning, Le Devoir has the front page.
Yeah, show us that. So tell us what this is.
It's a huge niqab sign that somebody painted on NDP signs, and it's written on the side, the niqab source of internal fights, and it's saying that it's splitting the parties and the voters, and it's becoming the issue of the election campaign right now in Quebec. And we saw it over the last 10-12 days. The NDP has been going down by 1% every single day. They're now below 40%. They were close to 50% 10 days ago.
So we were talking on the phone. I gave you a call and said, Eric, what's going on? We're chatting, and you were telling me this. And I went to the Nanos tracking poll, and I looked, and you're right. The NDP are ticking down 1 point a day. The Conservatives ticking up. The Liberals ticking up a little bit as well, which is strange, because if it's this issue, then Justin Trudeau is on side with Tom Mulcair. But Harper and Duceppe are absolutely opposed to the niqab. So the Conservatives have said they're going to appeal it. In English Canada, do you want to know what that has resulted in? Sympathetic stories for Zunera Ishak and her plight to be able to vote against Stephen Harper, and sympathetic stories of poor women who just want to wear the niqab and be left alone. There is no sense that the overwhelming majority, I mean, for goodness sake, CBC's Vote Compass, the majority said they were opposed to it. We did our own poll at The Rebel. I want to read you the results because I know it's stronger in Quebec, but listen to this. Across the country, in British Columbia, 67% believe you should show your face during a citizenship ceremony, 83% in Alberta, Saskatchewan and Manitoba, 76%, Ontario, 73%, Quebec, 91%, Atlantic Canada, 68%. So the weakest spot in the country, it's still 68% saying, show your face. But to the English media, this is not an issue other than to be sympathetic to the poor victims of Stephen Harper. What's the disconnect there?
It's the role also of the political parties to wedge on the issue. In Quebec, yes, the newspaper are all talking about it, but the Bloc Québécois was very powerful in using it. They did an advertisement where you see a pipeline, and at the end of the pipeline comes out a niqab, and they talk about the NDP's policies, how disconnected they are from Quebeckers, and that 91% of us are against the niqab, and they say, and the slogan at the end is, I'm going back to the Bloc Québécois, meaning they're talking to NDP voters who used to vote for the Bloc in the old days, who voted for Jack Layton probably last time around, and were considering voting Mulcair this time, and they're telling them it's time to get back home at the Bloc Québécois, and that really raised a lot of attention. The Bloc Québécois got accused of being le Front National, the extreme right. of Marine Le Pen.
This is the coward's way out. If you say that you're opposed to this, if you believe that you should have to show your face even briefly for a citizenship ceremony, you're a racist. Even though, one, no race wears the niqab. Islam is not a race. But two, in Islamic countries, you were required to show your face, including in Mecca at the Hajj. You're not allowed to cover your face.
So is the Mecca Islamophobe? Is the Canadian Muslim Congress Islamophobe? We did a vox pop here in Quebec City among the Muslim community, because you know that we have a lot of Muslims from the Maghreb in Quebec, and when you go there, it's very, very difficult to find one single Muslim that agrees with the niqab. So I mean, we have to stop this politically correctness crap. It's going nowhere. There is an issue right now. It was not planned. Nobody saw that judgment coming out of the Federal Court of Appeal last week. It came out of nowhere and became a big issue, and unfortunately Mulcair and Trudeau are not able to be on the side of the strong majority of Canadians right now, and that's their problem.
And what they're doing is they are misconstruing the issue, because the original judgment, which the appeal court agreed with, and in a very strange step, actually ruled from the bench. Eric, I've been covering courts for about 2 decades now. The courts do not often rule from the bench. They do not sit there and say, they always say, we'll reserve judgment. It is rare that a court rules from the bench, and in this case they did, in saying this will allow you to vote in the election. But the fact is, this was not about a charter right. This was about judicial discretion. That's what the ruling is on. So you've got Mulcair and Trudeau saying this is about rights and we support rights. No one's saying that the person can't wear a niqab in the street. We can agree or disagree on whether that's a good idea, but at a certain point you have to show your face.
Exactly, and I don't understand why they're still pushing it. I don't understand why the English media is not paying more attention to it, because I can tell you, in the population, what workers are talking this morning at their workplace around a coffee table during their break, they're talking about the niqab. Unfortunately, they're not talking about the economic policies of all parties or other parts of their programs. They're really talking about this issue. It's very emotional.
But once again, the media, at least in English Canada, completely disconnected. As far as I can tell, and maybe the Mulcair got asked about it today, but I haven't seen it yet. You've got this study out showing less than stellar results for Quebec's universal daycare program. Mulcair wasn't asked about it yesterday. It came out Monday. He wasn't asked about it yesterday. This is his big promise. He wants to take that across the country. So, there is a media agenda, and unfortunately it doesn't involve questioning big government programs, and it doesn't involve the niqab at all. Is the niqab going to be the defining issue as we go into the debates and the days coming out of the debates? Is this going to help the Conservatives, or is Gilles Duceppe going to soak up all those old NDP voters that are being turned off by this?
The first French debate that we're having, the leaders' debate, is tomorrow night on a French CBC. It's going to be for sure an issue during that debate, even if the CBC is usually more on the politically correct side. It has to become an issue because it's just too big now. They cannot ignore it anymore. But I'm going to tell you, it's becoming also an issue because there was another issue that happened just before that, and we have to make sure that we don't forget it. It's the refugees crisis from Syria. It kind of put the table. It's not the exact same issue, but it's the same. It's the same kind of problem where a lot of people.
In Quebec, there's opposition to this? Sorry, you were breaking up there. You're saying in Quebec there was opposition to just blindly accepting large numbers of refugees?
Absolutely. There's a huge backlash regarding the fact that we could receive more refugees. People are against that. They think that if there's a problem in Syria, we should go and help in Syria. Even the bloc.
All right, we're having trouble hearing you now. We'll leave it there, and we'll check back in with you after the debate again. But of course, people can follow Eric Duhaime on Twitter, or they can listen to him on the radio. If you speak French and you want to check out Eric's radio program, highly recommend it because he's not only knowledgeable, he's entertaining. Eric Duhaime out of Quebec City.